It's almost 2 years, can you believe it, since Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, as I mentioned last week, the federal government has knocked back the request from Ukraine to donate our retired Taipan helicopters. I can't believe that decision still. Instead, they're going to be dismantled and buried. That's crazy. That news has prompted the former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, to speak out, telling the Australian newspaper that, quote, "We have let Ukraine down." Vasyl Myroshnychenko is Ukraine's ambassador to Australia. He joins me from Canberra. Nice to catch up with you again. Do you echo Tony Abbott's sentiments that Ukraine has been let down by Australia?
I have to tell you that I attended a briefing today by the Defence Department, and they have assured me that the process of disposal has started earlier last year, and by this time, all of this aircraft have been disassembled, and there is not much that could be provided at this stage. As I mentioned yesterday, I think it's an opportunity lost, but I would like to focus more on positive things, and we are in constant discussions with the government in terms of what else could be provided to Ukraine to help. Because as I'm sitting here, Kyiv and other cities in Ukraine are now being shot with missiles and drones at very intensive, a high intensity level, and Ukraine needs that support. And we are talking with the government in terms of other assistance, what other assistance could be provided. I just want to turn the page with the Taipans and focus on Bushmasters, for instance, which have been performing so well in Ukraine, but also electronic warfare, drones, ammunition, anything else that could be provided to Ukraine to help. I think it's important to focus on what is possible.
Ambassador, we spoke last week and you talked about how you'd just been back home and you're in fact in Kyiv when there were missiles being fired. Give me a snapshot of where this conflict is at right now. I mean, Gaza has overtaken a lot of the discussion about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Who's winning this war?
Well, despite the fact that the Middle East has taken more airtime, space does not mean that the support for Ukraine has diminished. And we see it in different countries. We see it in Germany, we see it in the US, and we see it in Australia, actually. I see massive support from people to support Ukraine and continue providing that support. Currently, as we're in the middle of the winter, we see how Russians are intensifying their attacks at our critical infrastructure and using the drones they got from Iran, as well as their long-range missiles, to hit some of those critical sites that we have in terms of power generation, electricity distribution. On the front line, it's all slowing down. There is still some skirmishes and fighting taking place in certain parts of the front, but due to the nature of the weather, it's pretty cold right now at the moment. The intensity is quite lower than it usually is. We're also building some fortifications to provide more protection from further Russian advances at the moment.
Ambassador, what can you tell me about this ask of Ukraine for some more thermal coal from Australia? How advanced are those negotiations?
The need for Ukraine thermal coal is all year round. This is not only because of the winter, especially as Minister of Energy of Ukraine has remarked in an interview to the Herald, was that we are getting ready to have our nuclear power generation facilities shut them down for maintenance this coming European spring. So we will need more thermal coal to produce electricity all year around. And that's coal for now for us currently is more of a lifeline. This is something that we need to survive, and we will be very grateful if Australian government could consider providing the coal to us. I mean, that we will, and generally, you know, I have to mention that we are extremely, Ukrainians, myself personally, very grateful to the Australian government for the assistance that's been provided so far. And also I'd like to personally thank Prime Minister Albanese for his leadership in this. He visited Ukraine, first Prime Minister from Australia ever to visit Ukraine, and he did it on his 5th week on the job and whatever he's been doing to support Ukraine thereafter. And I hope the government will continue providing that essential support for us to be able to defend democracy, human rights, rule of law, and restoration of the international rules-based system.
Ambassador, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck.